Vanakkam, Namaste and blessings to everyone. This is Dr. Bhairavi Balasubramanian PhD, the Sky Priestess. Today's video is about this very powerful sextile that is occurring between the signs of Capricorn and Pisces in the months of March and April 2019. Now, this sextile actually gives us the keys that we need to create a literal bridge between spirit and matter. And that is what we need to transform this world into one that is more aligned with the frequencies of consciousness that are coming in and transforming this earth anyway to begin with. So there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential for creation in these 2 months, but also a lot of obstacles that make it harder for us to find the evolutionary potential in this alignment rather than the side of it that just makes everything feel like shit. But let's get into it. So let's first talk about the Piscean side. Now in Pisces, we've got Mercury retrograde, the Sun, Vesta the priestess facilitator. We've also got Neptune there, and Venus will also eventually enter Pisces. There are so many alignments that are happening through the movements of these signs, of these bodies through the sign, of their conjunctions to one another. Of course, the end of the Mercury retrograde, the entry of Venus, and finally the exiting of all of these bodies from that sign, with the exception of Neptune. I don't want to read all of it out because this is going to make it a very, very long video, so I'm just going to summarize. Mercury retrograde in Pisces is asking us to really look back at the prior chapters of our soul's individual incarnation. What were we in previous times? What gifts did we hold? What curses do we bear? What karma do we bring into this existence? And how do we manifest that in our thoughts? And how do we communicate those thoughts and those energies to the world? That's what Mercury retrograde is looking at. Vesta is looking at the contracts of service that have bound us to these roles that may or may not be allowing us to move further in our spiritual evolution because of an attachment to older forms of magic. Sometimes these old forms of magic are transforming in themselves, which is great, and sometimes they are stagnant. So we need to be very, very mindful as to which contracts we are carrying forward. Now we also have Neptune there, and Neptune is going to be there for a few more years. Neptune is opening all those doors to making these explorations possible. Neptune is putting the pressure on all of us to actually go back and look at those parts of ourselves that have existed for millennia. And this is not something you do with your conscious mind. This is something you do through dreams, through psychic work, through meditation. It is something that you touch the moment you go into that deep state of creation, rather co-creation with Source. So ultimately, all of these alignments are trying to take us back home where we are one with that creation energy. Very often we get kind of caught in our own karmic journeys and we lose sight of that, but it is about coming back to that true oneness with Source. Now, what's also happening with all of these energies is that they are preparing to also greet Venus. Venus will enter Pisces not too long from now, specifically on March 26th, maybe March 27th for those of you in Asia and Australia. So as Venus enters Pisces, we're going to be getting this nudge to look at yet again the spiritual values, contracts, permissions, and channels that mediate our relationship with relationships, with other people, with how we manifest and embody ourselves in this world and the world itself as an embodiment. We're going to be looking at our karma surrounding questions of embodiment and relationships, and that's going to be very interesting, especially as Venus moves through Pisces between March 26th to April 20th. So, like I said, there's a lot of Pisces happening. And you can refer to the previous video to look at some tools and tips to deal with Piscean energy, especially if you are having a very rough time of it. Just remember, it is in its own way trying to bring us to that very powerful space of communion with creation energy, in which you are, I am, we are, all of us co-creators. Do what you need to get back to that space. Ideally, not something that takes you out of your body, but rather that takes you deeper into your body. So deep that you realize that the universe and cosmos is within. For some people, that's meditation. For some people, it's dancing. For some people, it's cooking, painting, coloring, playing with clay. Whatever it is, use a creative activity and find your way back home. And you will find a lot more answers in that space of stillness, silence, and potential. And that's a nice thing. But the moment we try to control this energy with our ego mind, the moment we try to put limits on what it is, what it should be, what we think we know about it, what we think we're entitled to from it, that's when things get muddy. And that's a good segue into what all of this energy is sextiling, namely Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node in Capricorn. Oh my God, it's such an intense alignment. Now, to be clear, the sextile or 60-degree aspect, this bridge of potential manifestation, lasts between Saturn and Neptune throughout 2019. It goes throughout the year. And if you look at it between Pluto and Neptune, it lasts several years. So this bridge is going to be open for some time. But in March and April, due to the other bodies that are also aspecting Pisces, we have a better opportunity to work with this potential bridge of creation in a more constructive way. In other words, if we put the effort in to calibrate this relationship right, we can actually reap a better harvest as the future progresses and emerges. So this is a good time for us to be looking at as energetic recalibration period. So the Capricorn side of things are basically, they're super intense because right now we are building up to the South Node's conjunction with Pluto. That's going to be happening between the last week of March through the first week of April. There's a little bit of a wobble here because of the two different calculations of the nodes, basically end of April, early March. And this is a very big deal. The last time the South Node conjuncted Pluto in Capricorn was the end of 1776. And we have to look at the events of 1776 as the build up to, and 1777 as the wind down of this conjunction. And of course, for those of you who know American history, 1776, Declaration of Independence, interestingly also the time the Illuminati was founded. I did not know that. So it was a time where old structures of power were broken, new structures of power dealing with the occult were created and still have a hold on this world. It was a time where basically we broke and remade the world in completely different ways. And that same alignment is coming up now, and that's why there's so much resistance and call for the way things are being done right now. And yeah, it's the same alignment, 1776, I kid you not. But effectively, when we look at this energy and we see the way it is manifesting in the world, we see the potential to break the system, the parts of it that no longer align, but we also see ways in which this process of transformation can be done in a way that requires less sacrifice of the innocent and hopefully less upheaval, less war. Remember, Pluto also rules war, or rather military efforts. And this is where the spiritual side of things come in. Whilst this is a very powerful alignment, no matter who says what, as we give ourselves the permission to manifest this change in a way that has as little damage as possible to others, we actually give the collective the permission to allow this energy to unfold in a softer way. And this is a prayer that I would encourage anyone who is doing energy work or grid work across the planet to also include as part of it. Allow this transition to happen with as much grace and ease as possible. It will happen. It just doesn't have to be the most dramatic thing ever. Contrary to what Pluto likes, it's a bit of a drama queen. So once this alignment is over, Pluto conjunct the South Node, we then move to Saturn conjunct the South Node. That will be lasting literally between April to October this year, within a 1-degree orb. Saturn and the South Node are going to be journeying together as part of Saturn's retrograde. We're going to be seeing more energies from the past that are coming forth to be broken or to be transformed or to be rebuilt in very powerful and constructive ways. So Pluto is basically giving that big oomph, system's got to go down. Whereas Saturn is saying, hang on, what do we keep? What do we build? What do we lose? But ultimately, it's going to be a very powerful year for looking at changes in government, economy, politics in general, our relationship with banks. A lot of people are going to get very disillusioned with our symbols of status, prestige, power, and wealth, especially the ways in which it has been concentrated in the 1%. This is going to be a big year in tackling that inequality. So a lot's going to be happening. So as all of this is happening, you're looking at Pisces in this corner and the sextile kind of going, well, guys, we just want to go back to spirit, and it's in a nice way, not in a traumatic way. What can we do about this? And this is why the sextile is so important. Pisces allows us to soften the transformative and explosive energy of Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn. And it gives us the opportunity to also recalibrate and realign the structures that we are going to create, not with our will, but with the will of cosmic consciousness itself. And this is something that may be more so for facilitators to know, but most of you watching me are facilitators or people who can intuitively understand what this is about. This is not a time to put our desires and our will on what we want the world to be as. If anyone has to be leading, it's the energy of the children coming in right now. Keep the world in one piece long enough for them to have a look at it and see what can be done. That's the way I would see it. Now, I know it sounds very dramatic, but these are the alignments. And March and April are going to be the times in which where we can soften some of the more damaging aspects of this trajectory. I mean, another factor, if we look at it, is that Pluto is also squaring Eris in Aries. And she is the goddess who, because she did not get invited to a wedding party, literally caused the Trojan War. So there's a bit of an element of overkill right now happening, and it's so important for us to give ourselves the permission to manifest in ways that are not damaging. Now, one of the issues that are also coming up, especially because Pluto is involved in all of this, is the damaging influence of ancestral karma. We often, for those of us who are beginning to recognize that we have ancestors, we tend to only see it on one side. We say, it's benevolent, it's a blessing. But if you look at the history of the sign of Capricorn, it's not always a blessing. In fact, in Greek mythology, the constellation is sometimes identified as Amalthea. The goat who suckled the infant Zeus after his mother Rhea saved him from being devoured by his father Kronos. The goat's broken horn was transformed into the cornucopia, or horn of plenty. And even in the mythology of Capricorn, we see how an inherited structure of power can actually be quite parasitic. So when we look at Capricorn, on the one hand, that can reflect a very parasitic reenactment of generational relationships to power, and we look at Pisces, that is also known as going, I'm just gonna allow this to happen. I'm not gonna protest. I'm just gonna sacrifice myself to this. We also see this potential relationship forming in this way, where Piscean energy sees itself as less than its pure co-creative essence and allows itself to be sacrificed or devoured by that Capricornian energy. That's going to be one of the many flows or tangents that this sextile is going to take. Say no to it. That's why Vesta is in Pisces now. We are coming back to a place where each one of us is a sovereign in our own rights. Sovereignty is no longer held in that sense in this tiny little tip of the pyramid where everyone else is kind of bowed to it. No, we're done with that age. Energetically, we are remembering this. We are also remembering to recalibrate the vibration of what service used to look like. And that does not mean tolerating injustice. So that's going to be one of the very interesting alignments of the sextile coming up. Say no to predation. Even if that challenges your particular spiritual perspective, maybe it's time to change that particular spiritual perspective. Honor yourself, honor others. Anchor that energy of creation that you want to participate in and radiate that out to the world. Radiate that in your practice. Radiate that in your politics. Encourage and inspire people to do the same, knowing that we don't need to feed off each other. Help is different from parasitism. As long as you can find this boundary from yourself, you can actually manifest this sextile in a far more powerful way, not just for you, but by everyone who is touched by you. So there is also this theme that needs to be recognized. Ultimately, this sextile, like I said, it's going to be lasting a while. The Saturn-Neptune sextile is going to be lasting throughout 2019. Pluto and Neptune is going to be lasting for a few more years. But what we said now can make the outcome of this alignment so much more powerful. Ultimately, if we looked at what could create a yod or finger of fate with this sextile, it comes down to Leo, the energy of Leo, which is the energy of the child, of creation, and of love. Ultimately, all of the negotiation that we do now between Capricorn and Pisces kind of needs to coalesce with the energy of Leo, which is the creative spark of joy in the world. Ultimately, we are creating a world in which our children can live in, and their children can live in, whether or not we have biological children. Our descendants don't even need to be seen as humans. But everything that lives on this planet. Make it a world worth living in which joy, innocent joy, can live once more without being harmed for everyone. So, yep, what's today's message? It's a lot, but this is the energy of March and April. There's a lot to carry, there's a lot to process, and there's a lot to release. The past needs to be released with respect, and the future needs to be awakened to with our fierce, courageous hearts wide open. Ciao, ciao for now. Bye-bye.